This palette density quality of life update is the gift that keeps on giving. I've said before that whenever the devs announce map changes of any kind, whether palettes or something else entirely, I instantly get worried. I think the best way to describe these recent palette density changes is comparing them to those Russian nesting dolls, where every time you pick up one of those dolls, there's another one underneath it, and you just keep going and going and going until you finally reach the end. This is kind of the current state of these changes, where we started with one issue, and now in trying to fix that issue, there's another new issue, and now here we go again where there's another new issue. And I just think we're going to keep going and going until we finally get to the end and reach the light at the end of the tunnel. I just don't know how long that will take. That's the concerning part. I mean, there's a lot of concerning parts, honestly, but the main concerning part is when will we actually get to the end of all this nonsense? Given the history of this game's wildly imbalanced palette distribution and how much progress has been made, there's not really much left to fundamentally change when it comes to most palette loops. I'll never get over the fact that maps like Blood Lodge were literally a field of palettes at one point, just to use that as a reference point for how much progress has been made when it comes to palettes. Maps like that are thankfully a relic of the past though, and map balancing nowadays mostly requires very simple modifications, all actioned with a very delicate touch. One wrong move though, and maps can easily fall apart. But instead of changes being done with a delicate touch, players are subjected to balance whiplash and overcorrecting what should be simple fixes. The palette density whiplash can be traced back to three main issues. Number one, the original changes were overshadowed in the 9.2 PTB, which led to a true lack of testing. Number two, some of the original changes involved modifying maps that were not in need of readjustments. Number three, the 9.3 palette changes were not available for testing prior to being sent to live servers. The 9.2 patch contained the first version of the palette density changes. These changes were snuck into a patch that not only contained a new chapter, but also the originally proposed anti-tunneling and slugging features, all of which were extremely controversial from the start. I remember thinking during the 9.2 PTB that this patch was not the best timing for palette changes, as there was bound to be much more attention given to the new content and major changes that were being proposed. And this is exactly what ended up happening. Once that patch went live, the palette changes were then given the sunlight they deserved, and only then did players slowly realize the problems with this palette density quality of life update. In response to rising complaints from these changes, feedback was gathered about what exactly needs changed from this update. From everything I witnessed, the feedback given was to simply revert the palette density changes on certain maps. Haddonfield, for example, needed the improved palette structuring, while realms like Asylum were unnecessarily changed and had double palettes spawning at some loops. Even realms like Macmillan that had mixed buffs and nerfs only required some small fine-tuning. But to make it all easier for everyone involved, perhaps just reverting most of the changes in the next available patch would be the overall best decision, at least from my perspective. Thankfully, the 9.3 patch was slated for urgent improvements to the palette density update. But instead of just reverting some of the problematic palette density changes, the feedback and refinements somehow resulted in shrinking several palette loops, over-nerfing the original palettes, and thus going past the original intention of the palette density update. As a result of all of this, several realms now contain palette loops that were super nerfed when compared to how they were prior to the 9.2 patch. And unless there's time to fit in more palette changes in an upcoming hotfix, these palette changes may very well be stuck in the game until at least the next major patch in January. But that's just at the earliest. Who's to say if any further changes will even happen? With the amount of flip-flopping on a variety of balancing decisions lately, it becomes difficult to discern when changes are considered finalized. And the worst part about all of this that I have to emphasize is that the 9.3 PTB didn't even include these palette changes. These were just sent to live without any testing due to time constraints. This just reinforces how I've long felt about the PTB, with it having lost its meaning a long time ago. I did a deeper analysis on this exact topic recently, so feel free to check out that video for a more in-depth discussion on the PTB's lost meaning. And truly, if there's any new evidence I could use to justify why the PTB has lost its meaning, it's definitely the fact that the 9.3 PTB did not include any of these palette adjustments. Otherwise, things like the Swamp palette probably would have been discovered and not sent to live servers. I mean, is this really a good display of a quality of life update? From overshadowing the original changes to misunderstanding which realms were most in need of these changes in the first place, to now having nerfed some of these pallets deep into the ground, these pallet density changes have been hellish to experience. And don't get me wrong, I fully recognize that map balancing isn't always easy. However, the sudden whiplash from having fairly balanced pallets to then having too many pallets to now having super nerfed pallets is just not very fun for either side. It's also just very unfortunate to watch balancing decisions continue to be made that are filled with such obvious errors. None of this is new territory for DBD though, so I guess old habits die hard. That's all for now though, thanks for watching.